Yo guys, what is going on? Insanity coming back at you today with another Division video, and man, do we have a lot of information on the Resistance game mode to give you today. During today's State of the Game, the guys over at Red Storm joined everybody over at Massive to try and have a unique look at what's to come in Resistance. How do you play it? Where is it located? And what are you doing throughout this entire experience? So with that being said, you're taking a look at the first ever gameplay showcase to the public of this game mode. It is awesome, it looks fun, it's very chaotic, and there's a ton of NPCs for you and your friends to take down. So, how do you access it? First of all, you have to be a level 30 character. You cannot access this content without being level 30, so make sure you at least have one to try and access this over on the West Side Piers when this launches in Update 1.8. Oh, did I mention that it's going to be straight on the PTS starting September 26th on both console and PC? So there you go, guys. If for all of you out there that were worried that there wasn't going to be another console PTS, it is definitely happening for 1.8. Now, let's go ahead and start with the difficulties for this game mode. Basically, the way it's going to start out is there's going to be 3 tiers. There's going to be hard, challenging, and legendary difficulties for Resistance. And the way it starts out, you're going to begin in hard, you're going to jump into challenging, and eventually you're going to run into the legendary enemies, which is going to be extremely dynamic. It's going to be one of the major things they're pushing for the West Side Piers expansion, is they want you to feel that you're trying to run into new encounters, something new all the time. You're not necessarily going to see the same enemies at the beginning of each wave. Like, say if you die at wave 7, you start back over and you go back to wave 7 again, you may not see any of the same enemies. There may only be cleaners. There may be Rikers and LMB. There may be a bunch of rushers. I mean, you just never know what you're going to get, and I think that's going to make the game mode extremely unique and a hell of a lot of fun to play solo and with your friends. That was the other key point here. You don't have to play this with your friends. It's definitely something you can play solo. So if you really want to give yourself a challenge, playing this by yourself is going to be something very, very unique and interesting to see how it works out. Not only because are you going to feel a lot of pressure and feel overwhelmed, it's going to be a great way to try and better your PvE game overall, because it's going to try and see how you need to react in certain situations that you wouldn't normally see in the regular missions. Now, next on the list, where are the areas, where are these things at, and how do you access them? Basically, there's going to be 3 different sections for Resistance, and you're even going to be able to try and play one of those inside the big massive aircraft carrier, the Intrepid that we're just right outside of. You can go in down to the engine room, try and play in there. It's going to be really cool to go inside this thing to see where things happen in there. There is a brand new Fortification being added. So for those of you who are familiar with the Last Stand game mode, you already know that there's fortifications in there, and they're adding a brand new one. It's the support station fortification, and for the first time ever, not only can you repair your fortifications from the NPCs trying to destroy them, you can also upgrade them to do better things and for them to be a lot better for you and your team, which I think is going to be really helpful and useful. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is waves. There's critical waves. There's also boss waves, where it gives the players an opportunity to try and have a little bit of a mini objective while running through Resistance, so that if you refuse to get these things done before the countdown ends, your team is going to wipe, and it's basically going to make you all die. You're going to have to start all over back at wave 1, so you really need to make sure that you're checking your DPS, focusing on whatever enemy needs to happen, because if you refuse to take on a boss, all their ads are going to continue to spawn. It's going to be non-stop, and it's going to be very objective based. So if you refuse to take down that boss, the next wave is not going to begin, and you're just going to die, and that's just how it's going to be. Rewards now, right? Everyone is kind of curious to know what in the heck the type of rewards are going to be coming our way for this particular mode, and I think it's going to be pretty cool, because there's going to be these new things called Resistance caches, and they're going to go from tier 1 to tier 5. Every 10 waves is going to reward you an additional wave cache. So as long as you finish within the first 10 waves, you're going to get a tier 1 cache. You get to the second wave, you're going to get a tier 2 cache, all the way up to wave 50, which would be a tier 5 cache. The higher the tier, the better the loot. The smaller the loot table, so that you have a much better opportunity at getting those exotics and classified gear that everyone wants to get their hands on. Overall, guys, I mean, that's pretty much everything that you can pretty much think of. The other main thing that I really wanted to touch on is these bosses, right? A lot of people don't necessarily understand why they're going to be adding bosses into this, what's the purpose in them, and that it gives the player an opportunity to get loot that they would have missed over in the light zone bosses or even Any of the main loot that drops from any named boss, whether it be a piece of gear or a weapon, has an opportunity to drop in Resistance. All the bosses are randomized, and say if Lorraine drops in, if you kill her, you have an opportunity to get that showstopper, to get an MDR or her chest piece. If Joe Farrow runs up in here, do you have an opportunity to get Pharaoh's mask? I mean, you know, there's an opportunity to get a ton of brand new loot, not to mention 4 brand new exotics. Yes, 4 brand new exotic weapons are being added. We don't know the exact locations of where you can pick all these up yet. Obviously, you can get them from Resistance caches, and that's going to be one way to try and pick those up. And if you want to know what type of family we're going to be getting those in, we're getting them in. There's a new set of weapons over in the Marksman Rifles. You can get a new LMG and a new SMG. They didn't really go into full detail on what these are just yet, because until we get full details on them, I don't want to get rid of any information that would be false to you guys. But that's pretty much everything I could possibly think of and showcase to you guys for Resistance. The new Horde mode, gameplay mode that is headed to update 1.8 in the Division. This looks absolutely phenomenal. It's going to make for some awesome times, great streams, and a lot of fun with your friends. Like if you haven't, sub if you're new. What are you excited for most? Resistance or just the entire idea of roaming the West Side Piers? I can't wait to see what your comments say, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace out.